guys, welcome back, Attack. Today we're going to do a quick first impression on Zems Online, a strategy card game in the same vein as like Duelist, actually. So directly, I'm just going to say what makes it different, real quick, like, okay, so it's just like Duelist. Okay, pretend it is exactly like Duelist, because it pretty much is. Now, the generals have, yes, unique card builds and decks that you can have. You can have unique cards only within that class, okay? But these guys actually have unique abilities themselves. They almost act like cards themselves. And in Zems Online, instead of moving just up, down, left, right, like in a square grid like Duelist, you actually have octagons, and you can move diagonally. And this is really important because a lot of the cards can shoot directly down lanes, which means they can move really far left and right, or they can attack really far, like they're ranged left and right. So yeah, there is a difference. There are range cards and there are melee cards, and you have cards that have all these different abilities that can move around. So yeah, it's basically just like Duelist. It uses a very similar mana system, or it's in this game it's called Zems, which is the namesake. Very similar to that, but what makes it really different is going to be the board. You can move diagonally to dodge around, so like if somebody could shoot you, kind of like in chess, like a rook is about to come at you, you can dodge behind a pawn, and so it would hit the pawn instead. It's just like that, okay? In Duelist, it's to a far lesser extent the chess-like tendencies, even though the board is still very important. In Zems Online, I feel like the board is superior because you do have a little bit, you have an extended, more versatile range of motion because you can move diagonally, and it does absolutely make a difference in the gameplay. Like I said previously, the cards that are melee that have like a charge, or whenever they attack, they actually move into melee distance, so they can move up, down, or left and right. And then the ranged, which you can shoot left and right, up and down, those are really impactful in Zems Online. So that's why I think moving diagonally is really important. Now, considering that those cards are really strong, and movement in general, being able to move and shoot at any range, being able to access the board, basically, because there is a board, cards that are mobile, cards that are ranged, inherently are just stronger, right? So, inversely, cards, magic abilities, or creatures that have effects that can lock down cards are also very, very strong. And tragically, the person that I fought obviously had a very custom deck, obviously was incredibly knowledgeable about the game because he was the only person playing today, and he was teaching people how to play. Me, personally, though, as a first impression, I didn't want to be taught. I didn't want my hand held through this experience because, the point of a first impression is to see how hard it is to get into a game, how uncomfortable it is, how awkward it is. And yeah, Zems is kind of awkward and uncomfortable. There's a lot of layering to the game that's not obvious and inherently, just like intuitive. But this guy did sit down and play with me quite a bit. It just sucks that he didn't use a noob deck against a noob, because obviously, and this is true about any collecting card game with deck building tendencies, you are going to have a horrible experience as a new player, pretty much. You need to have a lot of patience. You need to craft your deck as soon as you possibly can, because having the standard decks is going to be incredibly uncomfortable, and you should lose 100% of the time, and that just sucks for a new player. I don't know if they're going to add different leagues or ways to just play with new players. I know in Hearthstone right now, it's very uncomfortable. You hit casual, and then you're still playing with people who have these like uber decks, and you're just a new player, and it sucks. It doesn't feel good. But Zems Online is the same, and it's kind of a tragic thing, but I have no idea how easy it is to get cards. I have no, in collecting card game, I have no idea how easy it is to collect the cards. So I don't know what to say about that, but I do know that it does make a difference. Just wanted to mention that. Anyways, so let's talk about this one person that I fought over and over again. So he used cards that were very ranged, and he also used cards that, man, oh my god. His general had an ability that could actually turn my units against me, and they did not suffer exhaustion, which, like in Magic, is the tapping. When you summon a monster, they can't move or attack that turn, and if they do attack, then they're tapped. Yeah, okay, so if he took over one of my units, then he could just instantly do whatever he wanted with that unit. So it kind of sucked. This is me. I like playing really aggressive. I like going ham. I like summoning lots of units. I like zerging, okay? I like going full push, or I like kiting around. This dude wouldn't let me do either of that. He would lock me down, okay? He would lock me down with, this is where things got crazy complicated, and I didn't quite know how to handle it. I still don't know how to handle it, and I don't even think it's possible because of how much RNG is based on, like, actually, maybe, to him, it takes a lot of cards to actually commit to the strategy, and to me, it's kind of hard because I need special cards to get out of the strategy. So, this is what happens. He summons a weather effect, which is a thunderstorm. Yes, there are weather effects, like Yu-Gi-Oh! I think does this. So, weather effects, lightning storm, cool, awesome. Had no idea what was going on. And then he summoned this totem thing, which actually created water in certain different tiles. and this happened instantaneously. In water and lightning, yeah, okay, my characters got shocked, which were standing on the different tiles that were liquidated. So I'm stunned, I can't do anything, I'm locked down. Then he has other cards that have like a pseudo taunt kind of thing. It's like this pulsating heart character. Fuck this bitch, because like I couldn't do anything. Characters can't attack or move. Wow, that sounds freaking OP. And then I used a card that I thought could dispel areas, but no, it doesn't just dispel any area. It doesn't dispel certain creatures either. Oh my gosh. No. Okay, so there are weather effects, totally separate thing from tile effects, which are totally separate thing from monster effects that happen to radiate out to other tiles. So there's all these different layers to these effects. It's not just like affected areas. Like in Duelist, if you dispel an area, a tile, it would dispel the area, it'll dispel the tile, it'll dispel the monster. In this game, it's all totally separate, and I think that's a little bit convoluted. It wasn't really worded that well. It maybe could be just because I played Duelist. You know, I'm coming from Duelist. I played it a lot on my channel, a lot. Duelist Daily, baby. Anyways, so it could be my fault, but I just kind of feel like I wish I was made aware. As the first impressions, I feel like the game is a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, at least in the wording of the cards. I kind of wish that they gave defensive cards a little bit more of a buff, okay? So it's really easy to set up combos. I know it's still very RNG based, and you don't have the system like in Duelist. In Duelist, you draw 2 cards, and every turn you can replace a card. In this game, you don't have that. You don't have that at all, so RNG is really big. And I feel like RNG in a board type game is really impactful, because whenever you can summon or do a combo instantaneously, like lock down somebody, like literally, whenever he would lock me down, it would basically be game over. I had no chance to do anything. If I had a card that could actually dispel one area, one water area, and then I could move out of that, he would literally just do any other thing. He could summon another water area. He had creatures that could create more water. He had like the whole aura thing with the heart, the taunt thing. There are so many things that he could do on top of just summoning big monsters and throwing them at my faces, let alone his character could actually take over my creatures and then use them against me, which he did over and over again. So it just seemed like if you play aggressive, if you are the one making the plays, if you happen to get good hands, then you are going to be the one that wins. There's not really much reaction time for defensive players. And of course, this is going to be something that's not very, it's going to be very uncomfortable, but it happens all the time in turn-based games. It just does. However, I feel like in a digital card game era, we should see more games like Chronicle, where like players move at the same time, or there's more time to be reactive and defensive. Like Magic the Gathering has the whole exhaustion / tapping thing. Whenever you attack, it also becomes a tap. Stuff like that. In Zems, I don't know. It could be just he had a better deck, but to me, it just feels like the people who have better hands, who are more aggressive, like they actually make plays, they're the ones who are going to win, who can more instantaneously play. Me, if I keep spawning monster after monster after monster, setting up for some big-ass play, in a lot of card games, you can get away with that, because you can either choose who to defend with, who to tank with, or you can actually have, like, defenders, like in Hearthstone. In this game, it doesn't quite work like that, so if you set up, like, an army, they can instantaneously, in an AoE wipe, be destroyed. They could be rendered a null, because like what he did with the AoE stun, which doesn't just stun attack, but it completely makes you immobile. Overall, it just seems more instantaneous cards are strongest, and that's going to go back to the whole range and movement thing. Cards that can shoot across the map, cards that can move across the map, anything that's instantaneous at all in this game is incredibly overpowered. It's so easy to see what you are setting up, and not because in this game, not only do you have to set up units, but you have to also move them. You have to move all your units. So people who like to do big Zerg rushes or big ass armies and stuff like that, it just doesn't really work out in this game. It's really hard to get momentum in this game unless you have huge amounts of CC. I'm just saying, that's going to be kind of like my rant over. I don't know if that's the truth. It could be that there's so many cards out there to actually stop all of the CC that guy threw at me. But, that's just my first impressions, and I happen to have fought somebody who was brilliant at the game or played it for a really long time, so, that's how it is. Now, I'm going to end this first impression talking about the art and everything. We're not going to go too much into the intricacy of the game. I try to do my best, but for the most part, basically, I feel that as a new player, you're going to get shit on, because yeah, you don't have good cards, you can't do good combos, and the people that can do good combos are just gonna shit on you, but happens in a lot of card games, it's just how it is. Anyways, graphics. It's really more in tune with Magic the Gathering. Every card kind of looks like a tapestry. It looks like a painting, man. It's a work of art. It's glorious. If you like that, you like that. For me personally, I actually really like Duelist's art. I think the digital paint and then the pixel art is really freaking gorgeous. It's fantastic. I like it a lot. In this game, it's more for people who like Magic the Gathering kind of art. So yeah, it's more serious, it's more hardcore, and it looks like actual paint. It looks good. Basically, it just looks like Magic the Gathering, though. So the board effects and everything are pretty good. They're pretty great. But here's one thing, okay? So the units on the actual field, they're not moving or anything. They do look pretty good, high fidelity. They're obviously just kind of cloned out of their original art. But like, say, let's go back to Duelist. Let's compare it to Duelist. Duelist actually has moving creatures on the battlefield. And they actually have like these unique attacks between every single one of them, unique death animations. You're not going to have that in Zems Online. I mean, you're going to have effects to probably the level of polish and level of intensity of maybe like Hearthstone, but it's not going to be to such an intricate and such a intimate level as Duelist. Just saying, that's the game that it's directly compared to. However, if you really do like the artwork, which it's very obvious, it's like a lot of people do like this artwork because Magic the Gathering is known for its artwork. Zems has some pretty good artwork. Now, for the actual units on the field, debatable, but it's pretty okay. Now, the user experience overall, the game is in alpha. I think that a lot of stuff is placeholder. I think the menus are probably going to change. I think just like pretty much everything about the UI is probably going to change, and hopefully for the better, because there was some awkwardness. Whenever I would mouse over cards, it wouldn't immediately show things. If the enemy was moving other units, it'd be hard to, like, the pull up of the card would just disappear, so then I have to re-pull it up, and sometimes it just wouldn't. Sometimes it was awkward placing cards. I don't know if you can see in the gameplay, but sometimes I try to play a spell card, and it would just deactivate, and I have to click it again, and it would deactivate, and I have to click it again, and then maybe it would go off. I don't know. It was just a little bit wonky, but remember, the game is in alpha, so that's probably why that happened. Now, my only real complaint about the game is that I think that it's just kind of, it just really favors one certain kind of gameplay. Now, Duelist is a little bit simpler, but in that simplicity, there is a wider variety of potential with deck building with the cards. Now, when you have such complexity, and we see this in like Magic the Gathering and other like Yu-Gi-Oh, very complex card games, you start to see a huge trend with people just playing like they would just play one single playstyle, and then there'd just be a lot of variants on that single playstyle, and then people just kind of play that way. Where in like pseudo-simpler games like Hearthstone and Pokemon, you have a much wider variety of ways to win games, either through deck draw out, even though the cards themselves have simpler effects and overall the gameplay should be simpler, they actually have a wider variety of unique ways to go about winning the game. Now, Zems, like I said, the effects are a little bit more complicated than Duelist. The board is overall a little bit more complicated. In every way, it seems to be just like a little bit like a level up from Duelist in terms of complexity, potentially, and that's how it should play. But I have the feeling, and this is going to be like kind of a ranty thing, I have the feeling that most people are going to focus on instantaneous card effects, CC, of course, just like tons and tons of CC combos, and maybe that's just the way the game is supposed to be played. That's okay. A lot of other card games are like that too, and you see certain trends when things get nerfed and buffed, and it happens. But I just feel like with Zems, it was really easy to see the best way to play is focused on CC. It's focused on instantaneous damage and CC. You have to choose one or the other. You either go in all at once. There's just no way that you can just summon units and then move them across the board. Normally, in normal strategy games, you have terrain that you can hide behind. You have Fog of War. You have different kinds of terrain, elevation, forest, waters, stuff like that. But in Zems Online, it's a flat board, and the players themselves modify the terrain. And so whoever has that power and whoever takes advantage of that aspect is going to be the best. And so I feel that I was defeated over and over again because I didn't understand that there was that singular way to play, and you got to focus on that. Still, that's a huge amount of death, right? Focusing on the weather effects. I don't know if you can actually summon a thunderstorm and then clear it, make it a sunny day. I don't know what kind of weather effects. I only seen one. I don't know if you can raise mountains. All I saw was the water, but If the game focuses on that, I would like to see a very large variety in different terrains and different weather effects, and please give units that actually take advantage of these terrains. Now, I'm a new player, I don't know if that already exists. I'm just saying I hope that is the case, or else this game will get very, very stagnant very, very fast. Even though, supposedly, there's all this complexity, if you don't give a proper amount of complexity to each individual mechanic of the game, like weather effects, there better be more than just 2 weather effects. There better be like 5. That kind of works in Yu-Gi-Oh, so I would appreciate that. If there's movement mechanics, I would like to see some, like in chess. Chess is all about movement mechanics. So I would like to see creatures that can actually move diagonally across maps or zigzag, stuff like that. But so far, what I've come into contact with my cards and my experience with an experienced player, it seems that it's just kind of simplistic, even though that they do have like this layout though. They do have a setup, they do have a foundation for a very complex and very interesting game. But right now, currently in its alpha state, then again, I only played against one person. It seems that there might not be as much complexity inherently as it would lead on. However, I'm just ranting at this point. I'm not entirely sure. It's just a first impression. I don't even know why I care so much. Maybe because I really like this genre. But anyways, that's just my concerns. You guys see the gameplay for yourself. I'm a fumbling idiot, maybe, or maybe the game is just a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, or it's not actually as fleshed out as it needs to be. However, whatever the case is, I kind of hope that you retool the balance of the starter decks, because the draw mechanics really suck. I just felt like I kept constantly getting bad cards, or at least disable the Albion deck. It's easier to get better cards with the Soldier deck, or whatever his name is, so if you could, just kind of do that, that'd be great. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm Skyline Shore with Attack Gaming. I really ranted on this first impression because the game, like I said, I didn't really get a lot of experience. Nobody's playing this. There's literally nobody playing this game except for this one person that I played over and over again, who I think is a developer. I don't know. Anyways, nobody's playing this game, so I had to really stretch for my first impressions on this one, but I still wanted to get it out. So please, like and subscribe to appreciate my effort. I spent a lot of time just trying to find games this weekend, man. Hours of my life for you guys. Anyways, hopefully I answered all the questions about this game that I possibly could. I tried to dive into the intricacies. I like card games, but I don't know, it's hard to get into them, And Zems is no exception. It's not like Duelist, where you can get into it and you have access to all the different generals and you have all access to so many different playstyles immediately. It's not like that. You have access to just a very few little bits of pieces of the game, basically. So, first impressions, it's kind of boring, simplistic. It's overly complicated, but it's simplistic in the fact that you don't have many tools. It's like you need to fix a car engine, but you're only given like rocks. I don't know, it's just how I feel, guys. Anyways, I think we're done with this first impression, right? Okay, we're done. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Welcome back, Attack. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 free-to-play MMOs for this year, for 2015, and I think across all the genres for free-to-plays, we've seen so much innovation in MOBAs, in MMOs, in like card games. We've seen so many new things this past year, and hopefully, maybe, probably so, 2015 is going to be just as exciting. This is our